would like to welcome you all and greet you all warmly. Today, we all are gathered here for a live discussion on topic of waste management, which is based on series of webinars we conducted last week, namely All You Need to Know About E-Waste and by Mr. Michael Rada, Future of Waste Management, Turning Waste into Energy by Dr. Meenal Jain, Reduce, Reuse, and Recycle, Key to Waste Management by Mr. Himanshu Rajendra Bhutia, and last but not the least, Management of Waste, Road to Sustainable Future by Mr. David Ewusi. I would like to shed some light on subject by providing a brief overview. Sooner or later, we will have to recognize that the earth has rights too, to live without pollution. What mankind must know is that human beings cannot live without Mother Earth, but the planet can live without humans. The greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. If waste can't be reduced, reused, rebuilt, refinished, resold, recycled, or composted, then it should be restricted, redesigned, or removed from the production. Solid waste are the discarded leftovers of our advanced consumer society. The growing mountains of garbage and trash represents not only an attitude of indifference towards the valuable natural resources, but also a serious economic and public health problem. At its core, the issue of a clean environment is a matter of public health. If the sign on your heart says welcome, the love will come pouring it from everywhere. We are extremely fortunate to have four guests with us today, who are Mr. Michael Rada, Mr. Himanshu Rajendra Bhutia, Dr. Meenal Jain, Mr. David Ewusi. Now, over to you, Lokendra.
Very good evening to all present here. On behalf of whole SEMS family, I would like to extend a warm welcome. Now, let me take a moment to briefly introduce you all with our first guest, Mr. Michael Rada. Mr. Michael Rada is an experienced business professional equipped with 30 plus years of rich business experience. He started his business career as a steel factory worker. He invented and developed the systematic waste prevention methodology called industrial upcycling and started to implementation in the real business and industrial environment of CZR. The beginning of the operations industry 5.0 and industrial upcycling prevented already more than 1 billion tons of products to become waste. Mr. Rada is not only an innovator, but he develops, implements, and shares his knowledge through education worldwide to fulfill his aim to build wasteless world. Mr. Rada is the author of more than 3,000 articles, bloggers, and networker, and was awarded Best Waste Prevention Company in 2016, CEO of the year 2018, Waste Prevention Best Industrial Upcycling Company in 2018, the Waste Prevention Project Innovators of the Year 2020, and more than that. Mr. Rada is a public speaker in webinars as well as in school, college, and university. His wake-up calls leaves a deep impression on the audience, being delivered physically on the stage or virtually through any of the kind of online media. In his speeches, he delivers inside his own worked and developed of Industry 5.0 and released projects since 2015. His role as a keynote speaker reaches more than 50 events in several countries, including France, Slovakia, Latvia, and India, Malaysia, Austria also, and many more. On behalf of the SEMS group, I would like to welcome you, sir. We are glad to have you here. Now moving towards our next speaker, Dr. Meenal Jain, ma'am. Dr. Meenal Jain is an assistant professor at Department of Resources Management and Design Application, Lady Irwin College, University of Delhi. Her area of specialization is environment management and sustainable development. A strong academician and professional, she is skilled in program evaluation, environment awareness, and academic writing. A gold medalist in PhD from University of Delhi. A doctoral research focused on assessment of government initiative in off-grid solar applications for commercial establishments in selected state of India. A stakeholders perspective, it was collaborative study with School of Planning, Design and Construction, Michigan University, USA, and aimed at studying, monitoring, and assessing the policy aspects in 6 states of India for promoting solar energy and state and at central levels. The study was awarded the prestigious Anupa Shahi Sidhu Gold Medal for excellence in doctoral work at Lady Irwin College, in year 2017. Dr. Jain has more than a decade rich experience in teaching, training, and research. She has presented several papers in various seminars and conferences of national and international repute. One of her research papers was selected among the top 20 sports sponsors research papers globally in the Ajman 4th International Environment Conference in 2016. Founded by Ajman Government UAE, Dr. Jain is a member of several professional bodies, including the All India Women's Education Foundation Fund Association and Green Educators Network for College and University Teachers of Center for Science and Environments, and serves as an expert solar energy and environment at SR Asia, an international organization working in the area of social responsibility. Warm welcome to you, ma'am, for today's live talk show. We are happy to have you here. I would request Silpa to continue and take it from here.
Our next speaker of the day is Mr. Himanshu Rajendra Bhai Bhutia, sir. Mr. Himanshu Rajendra Bhai Bhutia is an environmental professional with total 6 years of experience in core domains of chemical and FMGC's industries. Possesses Bachelor of Technology in Chemical Engineering, postgraduate diploma in Environmental Law and Policy, and post-diploma in Industrial Safety. I would like to give you a warm welcome, sir, on behalf of SEMS Welfare Foundation, and have a look at Mr. Himanshu Rajendra Bhai Bhutia's profile. Moving ahead to Mr. David Ewusi Mensah, sir. David Ewusi Mensah is an environmental engineer with excellent skills in research and development, quality assurance, wastewater treatment, and environmental consultancy, demonstrated in history of working in environmental consulting and services industries, including research facilities. He is a co-founder and project manager of EcoEmit Solutions, a leading environmental consulting, services, and research providing company in Ghana. He is leading in providing wastewater and solid waste management solutions in local communities using nature-based solutions, with several years of experience working with renowned experts in Spain and China. David is passionate about environmental sustainability and education. He hosts and produces the Green Line Chats podcast, where he discusses emerging environmental challenges and promotes environmental related projects with guests across the globe. He also serves as a certified Industry 5.0 ambassador of Ghana, where he fosters waste prevention, education, and consulting to build a wasteless world together with a network of ambassadors all over the world. He is currently a global citizen scholar under the 2022 Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizen. David has made numerous significant contributions to scientific research and is currently a final year PhD research candidate specializing in environmental engineering. His research focuses on using sustainable microbial electrochemical technologies and microalgae in wastewater treatment, microbial technology, seawater desalination, and life cycle assessment. On behalf of whole SEMS family, I would like to welcome you, sir. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all four of our guests by applauding loudly. Now, let me introduce you all to our organization through a short video. so much, everyone, for your attention. Now, I request Lukendra to kindly take it ahead from here.
So, yeah, let us now turn our attention toward the question posed in the last week of the webinar. So, my first question is for Mr. Michael Rada, sir. And the question is, sir, how the health related hazards can be corrected, which are created through the e-waste? I am repeating my question, like how health related hazards can be corrected by which are created through the e-waste.
From my point of view, the hazard is connected to the processing of the e-waste. So the first step should be not to generate it, but reuse it. The second, which will come, is really advanced processing. You can burn everything, but if you burn it the wrong way, the danger is quite big. So it must be done in a proper way. There exist technologies and solutions which can do it, but the first step should be every time to try to reuse the item, repair the item, because with that we will reduce the most significant part of the hazard.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, for your knowledgeable answer. And now I have a question for Dr. Meenal Jain, ma'am. Ma'am, regarding waste to energy, yes. Ma'am, if there is a serious challenge in developing countries like Nigeria, recycling is at its lowest point, and there is a need for both private as well as public sector to go into it, then how can they get involved?
So, very nice question. And I feel being in a developing country, we are, still not in a position where we can make things mandatory. And, for example, if I give you an example of, e-vehicles. So, we are not in a position, if I talk of India, to, that government says overnight, you cannot use your diesel vehicles, you just throw them away, trash them, and, switch on to e-vehicles overnight. We are not in a position to do that. So things will happen voluntarily for the coming future. So the key is awareness generation, and more than awareness generation, I feel it's the motivation. People really need to be motivated to sort of treat waste as wealth, as a treasure, and not something which can be just thrown away. So uh, here two things I would like to point out. One is awareness generation, and second is motivation. Now, how do we do that? So we know that it's not only the role of government, or it's not only the responsibility of government to do all the things, but what government can do is come up with various incentives. And when you incentivize things, people definitely get motivated. So I'll share an example of solar energy, because that's one area which is very close to my heart. So when I did my study in solar energy, I found that capital subsidy proved to be a very big incentive for people to install off-grid solar on their rooftops. So similar incentives, be it financial incentives or non-financial incentives, I think they can play a very important role in motivating people to actually go in for things like recycling or such things. So yeah, I think that's the thing that I would like to point out. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your answer, and it was very helpful. Now over to you, Silpa.
My first question is for Mr. Himanshu Rajendra Bhai Bhutia, sir. Sir, according to you, how waste generation is reduced by minimizing our needs or resources?
Can you repeat?
Sure, sir. Sir, according to you, how waste generation is reduced by minimizing our resources, or we can say by minimizing our needs?
Okay, all right. So it's very much apt to my subject and the session which I took. So firstly is we need to prioritize our resources. We need to, as an individual level, whether we are on an individual or we are an institute or organization, we need to prioritize our resources, like what we need and how much is our, actual requirement. Okay. Based on that, we decide our actual utilization of resources, and from the outcome of the utilization, we get to know the waste quantum. All right. So, as my opinion, we decide what is actual required for us. Okay. Let's take an example of day to day our daily needs. What daily needs we required. Okay. If we prioritize things, if we sort down We jot down things which is relevant to us and which is not relevant to us, and we definitely can decide the quantum of the waste that is getting generated from a daily activity. Similarly, if I talk about the industry, or right, I'm an industry person, so everywhere I will be linking it with the industry. So if an industry decides to reduce the waste, then it has to look at the resources that it is using. Okay, and resources also includes what type of resources are we using, whether it is renewables, whether it is non-renewables, degradable, non-degradable. Okay, so that way we can definitely look into the quantum of waste that is being generated. That's my submission.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. I appreciate your informative response. It was truly very helpful. So my next question is for Mr. David Ewusi, sir, regarding waste management. Sir, it is true that there are the laws concerning the management of waste, but these laws lack effective implementations.
Can you repeat what's the question in that statement?
Yes, sir. Sir, is it true that there are the laws concerning the management of waste, but but these laws may lack effective implementation? So
Exactly. Thank you so much for the question. I think this question is very important in the sense that moving forward, we also need the legislative system to make laws that are more realistic and feasible in every country. I think that country leaders normally meet in a lot of meetings, the UN, the COPs, and all international events. Even in different continents, they have meetings, and there are laws that are sort of helping them or guiding them to make policies to guide their management in their countries. But I think in the national level, when policies are being made, we should rather prevent that copy and paste system where it's not feasible. Currently, we are studying, we are doing a research study across the continent of Africa, starting from Rwanda, about why should single-use plastics be banned? And then studying the people's behavior. Is it very feasible with them? How do they behave through it? So we are looking at the success stories like Rwanda, Kenya, and Malawi who have started recently to create sort of a template that could be help other countries to respond to it. Across Africa, where we have over 50 countries, we have more than 30 countries adapting a ban. But then if you look at the trends, none of them have actually been able to, few of them, I should say, have been able to implement it successfully, and it's working in the country. Why? It means that there is a problem between adapting, processing, and then implementation. It's not feasible for the countries. So what process should we go through? We have to understand the people. We have to understand our system. Is it feasible? Do we have alternative materials? People want to do collection at every point. But then if you collect and then you just go and dump them in the landfills, you haven't done anything, because collection of waste is just the first point of its management, right? So now, as I mentioned in my presentation, population is growing, demand is growing, production is growing. So definitely waste quantities are also going to increase. We cannot control, population that much because it's a natural phenomenon. And then what we can control is our consumption rates and then our production rates, and also prevent some of the waste, because we have two things we are managing now: the waste that is yet to come and the waste that is already existing, right? So we have to create policies that are very feasible with every country or every region's, conditions, right? So I think there's a lot of things that has to go through this process, because of course, if policies are not working, industries are not going to work very well. People are just going to do everything that they want. So it's very, very important that policies and laws are working in a direction that is very feasible to a particular locality. And I think that's going to help a lot. Of course, there's a lot of things to consider in this process, but I think that if a country has a mindset that we want to do it feasible to our locality, it's going to help a lot, I think.
Thank you so much, sir, for well-informed response. Now, over to you, Lokind.
So yeah, my next question is again for Mr. Michael Rada, sir. Sir, I want to know how organizations reduce their cost by the process of e-waste recycling.
The question is generally not only related to e-waste, it's to all waste. at the moment, if you process waste or if you generate waste first, it means you generate cost. So simple it is, because you have to dispatch it, you have to pay someone to take it over, you have to landfill it, and there is a cost connected. So this is a red number. But if you start to prevent this waste happen, if you start to work with it, if you start to upcycle, if you start to do anything what was mentioned by the others speakers, you do not generate waste. So already with this moment, from a red number, you go to black zero at the start. But then if you start to find a way for this waste, including e-waste, you start to generate, instead of cost, you start to generate profit. So I have learned within the 9 years which I'm doing the systematic waste prevention, I have realized that there are only two things which are connected every single business. First is money and profit. Everybody speaks about, and nothing wrong, unfortunately, nothing wrong about the profit as long as it does not hurt anybody or destroy anything. It's a type of the economy, okay, let's use it. But the second part, which nobody speaks about, is waste. And what was interesting, in 2013, I realized, in 2010 already, but in 2013 more intense, I realized that nobody in the world was trying to prevent this waste happen. And I was very curious about, because I was all the time thinking that the waste industry is here to clean up the world, but it was not this case. The core business of waste industry is to manage waste, and that's very different from not to have the waste. So this is why it's growing so fast. This is why it is trying to put in our heads that every time when I don't need this cup, I should throw it away, because this is the way. So there is a lot of money inside, and we made a calculation in 2019 on a global scale. It was the waste prevention value in 2019 was 475 trillion US dollars. Already at that time, it was much higher than any other industry. Unfortunately, this year it increased. It is 1 quadrillion, which is a number with 15 zeros. And it increased because of the war in Ukraine, because every single shot is single use, and not a single life which is lost can be rescued or recovered. So this is why, unfortunately, every business people will be happy because the value grow up. I am not. I'm sad about it, because we have to do a lot to prevent this waste happen. So this is connected, is applicable to every industries, every segments, in all the types of waste, which is physical, social, urban, and process waste. Everywhere, the same principles are working.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir, for your wonderful feedback. And moving forward with my next question, which is Jane, ma'am. Ma'am, can you tell us how a potential to destroy renewable material is act as cons for waste to energy? I am repeating my question. How a potential to destroy recoverable materials is act as cons for waste to energy?
I'm sorry, I'm not able to hear properly. Is it just me, or I don't know? Can you please repeat the question?
Yes, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Ma'am, how a potential to destroy recoverable materials is act as cons for waste to energy?
Okay, so you are, I think, basically talking of the byproducts that are generated as a result of, generating energy out of waste. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, ma'am.
And how to manage that? Okay.
Yes.
So, in most of the cases, the byproducts in itself are, something of use. So, for example, I give you example of biogas. Now, you feed in your biodegradable waste in the biogas plant, and you generate biogas, and the remaining sludge which is left once the biogas is produced, it's an excellent manure. So it's not that the byproducts are always something which act as a hindrance to your process, or they are something which need to be handled separately. But most of the times they in itself they are a resource which we generate, right? So depending on what kind of process you're using, it varies, but most of the times they are also something which can be for some or the other purpose.
Thank you, ma'am, for your insightful remarks. Now over to you, Silpa.
Himanshu sir, I would like to ask the next question from you, and that is, some things are more expensive to sort, clean, and recycle, and costing more than the material to make new. So how can we apply 3 R's in this case?
All right. Okay. So yeah, there are few things which requires capital in it. Okay. And as I guess Mr. Rada said, that everyone looks for profit and money and the business. Okay. So yes, it happens that there are few waste which requires capital to recycle it or either to reuse it. So the first thing is, of course, we look at the first R of reduce. Okay, how it can be reduced or it can be avoided, like refuse. There are two more R's apart from this 3 R's, that is refuse also. So we can refuse those waste if possible. Okay, and for me, I feel that the whole context of waste that we are talking about, whether it is e-waste or the other waste, it is termed as a waste industry. Okay, there are service industry, manufacturing industry, there is you can say other industry, but waste is also becoming industry in itself, and there are huge potential to convert the waste into wealth as well. Technologies are coming up, the ideas are coming up as such. So these waste can be turned up into opportunity, a potential to create wealth out of it. And of course the expenses involved in making it reusable or recycling it. But of course the first R of reducing the waste or making a right choice of selecting the product is very essential. And wherever the cost is involved, I guess the benefit is weights more higher than the cost of recycling it or reusing the waste. So this whole context of waste industry, I call it waste industry. So it is booming, and of course there are you will have some sections, you will have some opportunities to optimize the waste as well as optimize the waste recycling cost. Okay, there are lots of byproducts, as Dr. Meenal Jain said, that byproducts are very much useful, and those byproducts are also an opportunity of generating the wealth out of that. So these 3 R's are interlinked with each other. There are two more R's which are also coming up. Refuse it. But the question of where cost is involved, where capital is involved, it has to be looked as an opportunity to get into the technology, get into the system, and of course the reduce option is always open for us.
Thank you, sir, for your thoughtful
Thank
response.
you.
And my next question is for Mr. David, sir. Sir, according to you, what are the necessary steps which should be taken to reduce the majority type of waste in food and garden trimmings?
Right. So thank you for the question as well. I think now people are getting more interested in preventing the waste, which is very, very important. In terms of preventing waste, I think that in my presentation, I put in a very simple diagram of how products are being made from individual materials. So let's say if you're making a simple cup, if you look at the life cycle assessment, right at the beginning stage of it, you take a plastic material, you take this, you drill the oil, of course, the byproducts, blah, 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 all these materials, you put them together and make a product, right? So waste is being generated in the whole supply chain, right? From the industry to transportation through to getting it into the market, and then also at the customer stage where we consume and then we just dispose it. So I would like to generalize my answer in all industries, as all my colleagues have already done. So we have to look at the supply chain and also collaborate as well. So if a paper industry is looking like, okay, well, I have wastewater, or I have this waste from the wood that I used. Maybe a furniture producing company might need these materials as a raw material, right, to apply it. So if we are collaborated, that thing can be sold and make profit out of it, right? So the paper industry and the furniture industry are now collaborating A wood industry can also collaborate with a farming industry, whereby they have a farm and they need some cushion for their farmers, their animals to sort of sleep on, or even provide them with food. In that case, they are also collaborating. At the local level, where we have consumers, we can also collaborate, whereby we have, centers where if you don't need a glass, you can take it somewhere and you can get something out of it. There are so many programs going on across the globe where you can get even plastic waste to pay your school fees. It's happening in, I think, either Indonesia or Malaysia. I've forgotten which country exactly it's working in. There are other countries, even in Ghana, they are using that to pay for phone credit, right? You can take your waste material, you go there, and then they have a collaboration with the communication industries, and then you can get that to pay for your phone credit and get internet on your phone, right? So that kind of collaboration and connection should go on, where people's mindset will be like, if I have waste, I have money, I can go in for that, because that's what moves people. Unfortunately, it's very sad, because I've had several communications about this, how economy and GDP is moving everyone's mindset. That's another conversation for another day. But then people are moved by money. So if we rather see waste to be money, then it's definitely going to be prevented in all forms. Imagine a country where people are fighting over waste. I mean, fighting over waste. Everyone thinks that it's going to be something valuable. So they are all going to fight for it. And it's not going to be in our water bodies. It's not going to be everywhere. So in summary, just to answer your question, I think that it's a matter of collaboration, and it's a matter also, importantly, education, because a lot of people have been, let's look at the villages, right? They don't have any idea on what they used to use. Example, I'll use Ghana in local communities. Most of our waste is large population, and we can see that in India as well. More than 50% is organic. And that was what has been in existence for so many years. But now we were introduced to other materials like glass, using them for other products and all that. But then whilst they received it, they are not used to, just throwing it away and it become soil in a couple of weeks, right? So we have to educate them on how to reuse them, because these materials are not just like the organic stuff that we just throw away, right? Now we have to educate them. This glass that you have, we can crush it and use it for road. So bring it to this location. And government provides incentives and puts their attention on these kind of areas that people's mindset are like, okay, if I have waste, this is where I can take it. This will help. And I think it connects with one of the questions that was given on how we can, make more efforts in the 3 Rs, right? Because the government's attention are necessarily not on these areas. What is more expensive? If you look at things that are expensive, it means that there hasn't been incentives. Example as what Michael was talking about, the war. The war has actually connected, and now fuel prices are high. Think about it. Why is it high? Because there is a problem somewhere. The supply has reduced, and now the people who control the distribution have increased the price because now the demand is high. Yes? Why is plastic materials more expensive, like plastic bags? Why is it less expensive than paper bags and then other materials? Because there's a lot of incentives on them. So if our mindset is waste prevention, there will be equal incentives on all other materials. And these materials can be affordable to every local person, right? So people are not going for sustainable materials, or people are not thinking of waste prevention because the bag is 0.0001 cents. I mean, of course, I can just throw it away. But if there is a price increased on these materials, it's more expensive, people will think about it. After use, I know that I can also get my money back, so I'll reuse it. So collaboration, education, of course, money also has to be invested in it.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful reply. It was really very helpful. Now, over to you, Lokendra.
Now, I would like to ask a question from you all. We would like to have your thoughts on this question. How can we help the world recover despite the waste caused by pandemic? I'm repeating my question. How we can help the world recover despite the waste caused by pandemic?
If I can take the first.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
Thanks a lot. But before I answer, I will show you something. What was discussed by all the 3 other speakers. This here, it's construction material made out of dangerous waste of Indian hospital. It's a construction material. This one, same technology. made in Czech Republic, made out of Tetra Pak combined with single-use plastics. This bag came, you see, it came from India. There was rice inside, and it should be single-use package with a zipper on the top, so can be used a very different way. These originally has been the bags for potato chips transferred into very nice item. So we see that there is a way how to utilize almost everything. So this is why I think that the answer to your question is really let's see the value. But it is very important to realize one important point with this. For anyone for whom the waste will be the value, he or she will not try to get rid of it. So if it will be your value stream, you will be happy that waste is generated. What we did in this aspect, because I don't like the idea, and this is what we tried and what we do for 9 years, we prevent the waste happen. And then to answer your question, we have implemented waste prevention legislation, which works, which can be applied, which at the end, of course, there may be some waste which will be processed as it was discussed. But the first mindset must be, I don't have to waste it. Even if it's a single-use bottle, I will refill it after I drink the content for the first time. Because there is nothing wrong with the bottle. It will still be a bottle. And I make a test. 100 times I refill it single-use bottle. Still, there is no hole inside. I put water on my flowers in the garden 100 times. If I calculate the carbon footprint, almost zero. So that's my answer. Let's concentrate and set up the proper way how to approach it. We have, there was mentioned 3R with even more R's. We have 6 R's. Recognize, reconsider, realize. And firstly, after came reduce, reuse, recycle, but in slightly different meaning. So this is my point of view on the topic. We can do it. We can do it right now because it's just here. Whether I throw it away, whether I create the waste, according to the legislation says, waste is something what I place on a location dedicated to waste storage, which means if I do not put it in this location, there is no waste and there is a value. And let's put these to the people, to the government, give them the rights. Here is the waste prevention legislation, which has been already translated in 60 languages, and let's apply it. So sorry for taking so long, but I would like to show you these examples from my office just to help you to answer the question by yourself.
Can I?
Yes, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
Yeah. So, the impact of COVID-19, we all know that, it is transforming the way we live from one day to the next. And, while there are national and local interventions, which are focused on protecting lives and economies at large, I think one thing that we all are forgetting is the impact of the hazardous waste that we are generating, right? And, the onset of COVID-19 pandemic, it led to, such panic buying of food, of toilet papers, face masks, gloves, cleaning products, sanitizers, and whatnot. And, the shopping of basic protective equipment, it just shot up like anything, right? And all these panic buying, it actually led to increased disposal of perishable products and leftovers, which has ultimately generated tons of waste, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, if we look at our healthcare facilities, and I talk of the developing and least developed countries, we are not equipped to handle even the existing waste loads, let alone the additional COVID-19 load that has come up, right? And this potentially exposes the health workers to so many more diseases which they are prone to being in such an environment. So what do we do with such a mammoth amount of waste that we have generated? So there are two things that we need to take care of. One is we need to act at the macro level. Second is we need to act at the micro level, right? We need to bring significant changes at all the levels, from the global to the hospital floor to the individual level that we are, in how we manage the healthcare waste stream, and in how I play my role in reducing the amount of waste that I am generated. So if I give example of the people I know, or even for that matter myself, we did so much of online shopping during this lockdown period. And when you do buy anything online, it comes with so much of packaging, so many layers of packaging are there, which is not required. So at an individual level, what I can do is very, very important. Macro level changes, definitely, but I think we should start from ourselves. How do we bring changes in our lifestyle? So lifestyle changes is one thing, that will help a big way in managing the waste that we are generating. And I feel if we do not act now, there might be another pandemic because of waste. So to prevent that, let's be united in tackling this huge problem of waste, and let's start from ourselves. That's what I feel, and that's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you
If
very
I
much.
Yes,
may, I just one small thing. This is my mask. I wear this mask during 2 years of pandemic. I changed the filter just one time, which means if I compare it to single-use items, then this was much more generally cheaper than if I have to buy every single day a mask. And on the other hand, I did not generate almost any of the waste. This is a professional item made in my country. These are nanomaterials. Of course, I look like an alien, but the people get used to it. And it was very interesting to see the reflection of the people. First time when I wear it in a city standard, I go in the shops with it, in the factories. I cannot go in the factories without a mask. So the people look at me like at the alien for 10 days. After they start to ask, where have I bought it? Because they start to understand that the true value is health, because there cannot be anything more professional than this, and the cost. And these two combined, I was able, by being the role model, and you mentioned it just now, ma'am, the right way. We have to be the role models, because if we are, our companies are, the people will follow. So simple it is. So I just want to like to show. And regarding the processing, already now in India, Brazil, some more destination, the single-use face mask and so on are being processed into construction materials, even some others. Generally the same technology, like I show you, heat compression, they sterilize and compress and so on. So it's just, sorry for stepping in. I will let.
yeah.
I would like to
So,
really thank you for that value addition. Really, thank you so much.
David, I guess I shall not break the chronology that Shilpa and Lokendra has set. So I'll pitch in now. Okay. So my submission to the question that Lokendra asked on how can we, help the world recover despite the waste generated due to the pandemic. So of course, in line with what Mr. Rada and Dr. Meenal said, that pandemic gave a different insight, a different viewpoint to the whole planet. Okay, and it definitely it gave an opportunity to get out of our comfort zones, and it gave many more understanding to the humankind. And when pandemic came, there was huge demand for many daily products, okay, daily necessity products, and the supply was less due to the shutdowns and lockdowns. But as things started getting streamlined, the demand, supply was met, and new products came in. Many new products came in, like whether it is food, or whether it's cosmetic, or whether it is the healthcare products. Every damn thing had new industries coming up, new products coming up, new franchise coming up for the marketing of that particular requirement. Okay, and that created the quantum of waste as well. So anything coming new definitely has the output as the waste. Okay, and even when we think of that waste, the waste also gave us an opportunity to convert it into something which is very reusable. So my submission over here would be that, people, I mean, the mass or the community is not aware, or it has to be, they need to be made aware of what they are having, what they are, having in their hand, like what Mr. Rada showed many products, many examples in them. So a person having a packet of chips in his hand, he's not knowing the value of what that packet is, like what can be turned out of that, plastic material. So the awareness, the education must be on, how a particular product or the waste is valuing. Okay, it needs to be realized to the community that, what value can be generated out of whatever we are having. And in the context of the pandemic, the waste that got generated, it was, huge in terms of the medical waste, the biomedical waste, okay, which generated out of, the mask, the PPEs, the healthcare workers wearing the protections and all. So that was the source of generation, and the that waste also was an opportunity to convert into the wealth, where Mr. Rada showed that piece of product where which was
right? So of course, that gives us the opportunity to serve more better. And when we look at a product in a different way, when we look at a product in a capitalization way, okay, then it gives more and more sort of opportunity to reconvert, to reuse, to I mean to recycle that product and make wealth out of it. So that is my submission, that awareness, education, to the mass about what is the value of the waste they are having. And of course, the first part must be to lessen that waste. Why to generate the waste? First part should be there. But when the situation comes like the pandemic, where when it becomes necessary to supply whatever is demand from the economy, what is the requirement of the present need, then of course this awareness, this education of the value of the wealth waste is must. That's my submission. Over to you, David.
All right. Thank you so much for your submissions. I think this webinar would have not been complete if we didn't even mention COVID, which has been so phenomenal in our lives over the past decade. And with respect to all the people who lost their lives and families that were affected, I think that, well, COVID has actually come to review the loophole that we had in every industry and every aspect of our lives. Now, companies are thinking, I mean, wow, we could have just stayed home and worked remotely. A lot of people are like, now there were a lot of analysis online. I mean, do you prefer to work remotely, or you prefer to work, going to the office? And a lot of people prefer that they can spend more time with their family. Now, when you're buying a flight ticket, you think about it, it's so expensive. So are you going to go or not? Is this trip more important? Can we do it virtually? So I think that it came to really review the loophole in the industry. Now, how we can move on from there, I really hope that we can learn. I mean, a lot of submissions have come already, but I think that one of the things that we knew that is not helping the industry is single use, and then also human behavior. We've been so comfortable with so many things that now we realize that maybe certain things were just not necessary. So I think Michael has mentioned so many things, and I think Dr. Jain also mentioned things about human behavior. And just last week with my podcast, there was a question that I asked on the podcast. The whole podcast was about just one question, that if you have the chance to change one thing about human behavior towards the environment, what would you change? And the answers were just amazing, because people realize that now, if I look deep into my heart, there are a lot of things that I have to change about being comfortable, right? So we get this as comfortable, we get this as comfortable. You have to stay at your home and just order, and it just comes, and with so much packaging. Now people think that they have the rights to packaging, and I will explain. People go to buy things and they want it's already in a package. Like recently I went to buy blueberries. And blueberries normally come in this flat pack plastic, and the guy had the guts to still put it in a bag. And I was like, why? I can carry this. All right. And so, like, now people even demand these kind of things. So now in moving forward, there definitely has to be a change of mind. I hope that we can all collectively work towards it. And I love what Dr. Jane mentioned about from top down, and then also from the down to from top to the down, and then from down to top. Everyone needs to be involved, definitely, because if the government is bringing the policies and people are not, working on it, it's not going to work. Everyone needs to be involved in it. And I know that top to down might be slow. So I want to encourage people on this platform who are listening to us that down to the top is also workable, it's feasible. Start an initiative. It's going to help. I think that now moving forward, we can combine social challenges that we have. Unemployment is high. People do not have money. People do not have education. There is waste in our surrounding. So why can't we create employment to reduce the waste and to remove the waste that is in the society? And there's a huge company in the UK that I love what they do. We have US Aid and all the aid industries, but this company is called Waste Aid. And what they do is they help local communities to invest into sort of waste incentive projects, right? So recycling, upcycling, and all products from food waste to single use to wood to glass, any sort of, they work with all local communities. So we have an initiative. Just get in touch with them. They will help you to find the best technology to work on it. Simple technologies. You don't need any confiscated stuff. All these ideas are still existing. But the thing is, are we willing to start? So individuals, let's get on our move. Today, if you don't have a job, this is a way. Even if you have a job, there is something that you can do. And there is this Industry Bible ambassador in India. He did something great. I interviewed him on my podcast and I love what he did. He had so much experience in project management all over the years. He's worked in the US, he's worked in Africa, he's worked in Asia in so many ways. And with all these experience during the COVID, he thought about it. Why don't I do something for my country, looking at all the ways that we have? So he decided to start a recycling company. And now he's doing amazing, employing people, reducing the waste in the community. Why can't we all do this? So even if you are a doctor, you are in the hospital, even if you are an engineer, you can still find a part-time way to be part of this initiative. And one last thing I'll just say to this is innovation is very important. Innovation plays a very important role in here. Even though there are existing technologies, there is also a way for us to also bring in more things that will be specific to certain areas. Because most of the time, we have been used to the fact that, okay, let's bring it out and later we'll find a way to manage it. That's what happened with plastics. And then they said, okay, let's do recycling. It's going to work. It's not working, obviously, right? So let's sit down, think about it. The research industry really needs to collaborate with the industry because now there are a lot of researchers, theses, and I think Dr. Jain will attest to this. Every year, students are coming out, right? But their theses are still lying in libraries, and these are solutions. Let's bridge them and bring them into the industry. People can deploy them, right? If India government needs to do a project, they shouldn't call the UN or call Asia or call another country. Go to your local universities, ask the professors, invest in funding their researchers, and indigenous research can be the solution to indigenous problems. Why can't we do that? So I think just to add up to what the intelligent and amazing contributions that have been made already, this is what I would just say.
Thank you, everybody, for your responses to this question. And now my next question is for, again, Mr. Michael Rada, sir. Sir, what do you think? What are the e-toxic elements which are associated with the e-waste?
Okay, again, before I start to answer this question, I will come back to David. You was in a shop to buy the blueberries. This came, you see the size. In this came blueberries from Chile to Czech Republic. After single use, it's thrown away. There is nothing wrong with it. It's not broken, it's thrown away. The second part, just for people to imagine how much waste is being generated by industry. This is a high quality rubber. The producer produced gaskets, which means 1 centimeter thin circle is being used, and this is being thrown away as waste. This is how it approaches. And my entire office is made out of similar things. So you are welcome when you come to Czech Republic. But to answer your question, the most dangerous parts are generally not the substances itself, but it is the way how we get the substances. Because there are many rare metals, there are many plastics, there are many, and because we do it, we take it let's call it the most simplest way. So you put it in a fire and you wait that something is released and you take it to one group and to other group. So the most dangerous parts are the smokes which are coming out, so the fumes which are coming out of the e-waste. This does not mean you cannot separate these groups through the fire. You can. You lose a lot of them. This is one thing. You endanger your health. This is a second thing. And the efficiency is very low. So it's much more better if somebody processes the e-waste. But speaking about e-waste, on our orbit, we have 170 million pieces of space debris. Generally, it's e-waste. It's e-waste. So in few decades, we created a landfill on our orbit filled with e-waste. But e-waste in this case, new Tesla car will become in few years e-waste. A bus will become e-waste. Your TV station, computer, everything. What is interesting, e-waste was introduced in 1978 as a separate category in the US. It was never before electric parts has been considered to be e-waste. It was waste, but not e-waste. And until now, since 1978 in US, 1989 globally with the Basel Convention, e-waste became the most growing waste category in the world. So since the moment when we recognize the value of e-waste, waste industry recognizes it. It grows up in such a scale which never anything similar does before. So we name something, say it's dangerous, and we do more and more because I'm making more money out of it. And that's the wrong part. So back to your question, is not the material itself. It's much more dangerous to extract it from the mines and so on. When you see the children working there in mangan mines and ores and all this, really, it's a crime. It's nothing else than a crime. And you know that you can get it from the machines, from the technology. I think 1 month ago, there was an article by New York Times or somewhere there that because of the shortage of the chips, the people start to deassemble washing machines, iron, and so on, to take chips out of them to use them in a cars. So you see, careful separation means less health issues, so as environmental issues. It takes a little bit more time, but the value which will brought back, it's much more higher than anything what you can do. Who will be the next, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think they do have a separate question for me.
Yes,
Is it
yes,
okay?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Separate question.
Yeah.
Ma'am, why traditional incineration is not much effective as compared to the waste to energy?
Yeah, very good question. I think incineration has been in practice for a very, very long time. And, take the example of burning leaves. That's nothing but incineration. But when you do incineration, in an uncontrolled manner, the amount of fumes that you are generating, they are adding to the pool of greenhouse gases which is there in our environment. And more the greenhouse gases, more is the more are we prone to issues like climate change. So that is why we say that, instead of just incinerating or burning your waste material just like that in an uncontrolled manner, you should go in for managing it properly, wherein we are able to extract energy out of it, and we are at the same time reducing the amounts of GHGs or the greenhouse gases that we are generating, right? So even though, even though it's not directly linked to the question you asked, I would like to add that, specifically in India, we have been really sustainable in our approach. Historically, if we look at our lifestyles, the old structures, the old buildings, if you just go and visit any palaces in Rajasthan or any such area, you'll see these structures are such that they are naturally ventilated. They do not need any mechanical
Yes,
ventilation
ma'am.
or HVAC systems, right? And traditionally, if our garments were torn or anything, we use them for dusting or for mopping. We did not throw them away just like that. That was the culture that we used to follow in India. And our forefathers did that, our grandmothers did that, our mothers did that. And just in the race of following the West, I think we have become unsustainable. So we need to go back to our roots, and that can be a major change. So
Yes.
instead of thinking of anything new or bringing in innovation, that is absolutely necessary. I'm not saying that it's not necessary, but before going in for innovations, we need to look at our roots and go back to our roots. I think that is something which will help more, right? So it was not
Yes, ma'am.
directly linked to that question, but I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your answer and it was very helpful. Now over to you, Silpa.
My next question is for Mr. Himanshu, sir. Sir, how metal post incinerations act as resource recovery benefits?
Metals
So
getting
probably
incinerated.
what she's trying to ask is, how can you recover resources from metals once they are incinerated? Yeah. So how can
I
you do
guess
resource recovery from metals once they are incinerated? I think that's what she's trying to
Yeah,
ask.
yes, ma'am.
metals as in, iron, nickel, copper. You mean to say that those metals?
Yes, sir.
I guess that's out of my purview, the question is, but I would seek help of three of my colleagues over here if you can answer this, because metals getting incineration is I have never got into it, like the resource recovery, especially out of the metals getting incinerated. But since the question has the word incineration, right? So I would take up in that context of incineration. Like the previous question was on traditional incineration. It was an it's a easy solution to get anything, get rid of, like get rid of any waste, get it incinerated, get it burned off, get it fired off. So that's an easy option, that's incineration. But why don't we think of a sustainable solution? Why don't we think of some other perspective of utilizing that waste, or either co-processing the waste, or either mixing that waste with some other thing and get it reused? So there are many options and technologies available to co-process that waste. So when it comes to metal, when it is not a pure metal, and metal is different sorts of metals are mixed with the waste, okay, so we need to extract those waste. I mean, extract those metals out of waste and get it reused. So that's a resource recovery, right? So, for example, let's say I would quote an example of an industrial waste, that is some residual material, right? A residual material getting generated from the industrial process of manufacturing some chemicals, right? And those residual waste are more sort of slurry. It contains metals, it contains heavy organics, it contains oils, free chlorines, free oils, right? Those are the residual waste. Now, instead of adopting the easiest option of incinerating, okay, will not give me one, sustainable solution to get rid of the waste, and second, will not give me the potential of that resource recovery, okay, that won't be achieved through incineration. So of course, we need to think of the waste in the direction of co-processing it, to pre-process it. Like we can pass it through technologies of getting it extracted, getting it distillation, like the technologies, the conservative technologies available with us is evaporation. All right. So can we think of in that direction to make it utilize in other sort of resource. So if I talk about this particular waste, that is, we call it as distillation residue or the process residue that is generated out of the any particular process. So that can be mixed, or that can be used in mixed utilized with the raw materials of other industries. Okay, can be used as a source of fuel, can be used as a heat generating source for other industry, and that way the waste can be get rid of. And I guess to answer your question with that, so incineration is definitely not a sustainable solution, and metal recovery definitely with incineration is if any of three colleagues could answer to that, but the metal recovery with the co-processing activities, like getting it co-processed with some other waste is a sustainable way of handling a waste.
Just to add to that, as Mr. Bhutia very rightly said, that incineration is definitely not a sustainable solution. And if we look at researches which have been done in the rural parts of India, where most of the households, they still burn wood and cow dung to for the cooking purposes and all. And that is one of the major reasons for respiratory problems that are arising in those households. And they are asthmatic, and so many respiratory problems are prevalent in such households because they are incinerating the waste for their cooking purposes. So that is also one of the reasons why incineration is not a good idea if it's done in an uncontrolled manner. Sorry, I just wanted to add that. Sorry for barging in.
No issues, ma'am. Thank you, Himanshu sir, and thank you, Meenal ma'am, for giving us insights about incinerations. And so my next question is from Mr. David sir. Sir, how the unscientific treatments act as challenges in waste management?
I'm sorry, can you repeat? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem, sir. Sir, how the unscientific treatments act as a challenges in waste management?
Oh, you mean how do the unscientific, waste treatment
Yes,
methods affect what? Waste management?
are the challenges in waste management?
Yeah, definitely. I think that it buttresses the conversation that we are having earlier, that people were introduced to certain materials, and of course, it wasn't the traditional things that they used to know. So they just thought that, of course, in our local communities, let's just burn it, and that's what I am. I'm not sure if that's what you're talking about, but yeah, it definitely affects it, and for sure, I don't know if you want us to discuss how far it goes in impacting our environment, but I think that it's very obvious from what Dr. Jain was also talking about, that, I mean, we see the impact of health reasons. My colleague here who just finished answering this question also talked about, hazards that are related to all these traditional and unscientific ways of managing waste. And I think that we all have to sort of educate people more. And when I talk about education, I think I would just like to emphasize that a little bit. In India, I might be wrong, but then there are a lot of languages in India. There are a lot of local people who might not be very familiar with English. And even with this webinar that we are having, only people who understand English might be able to get insights from what we are talking about. So who is there to translate all the information we are discussing here to the local people who are actually on the ground, to sort of understand all the new insights and things that we are talking about? And look at what Dr. Jain also mentioned, so significant about, now, why don't we go back, look at all those things that now we are terming as circular economy, and sort of try to improve on them to suit today. And it's the same thing in Africa. Some of the buildings did not need aeration and all that. I really love that example that you mentioned, because why? That's what the people could afford, and that's what they used to live, cooperating with nature, right? So we should bring the innovations back into them, bring them here now in the 20th century, and let's see how it's going to fit in our living standards now, right? People need to cope with it, but then how can we get these innovations and understanding to the people? So I think languages and bringing these insights to the local level, it's very, very important to the people. But to answer your question, it has a really, really huge impact. And I think that people need to be educated more on how to manage waste effectively, even at the home levels. Because I think even at home levels, people do not have, community collections. So people are sort of left to manage their own waste at home. But then if we bring this idea of, composting, at least everyone has a backyard. So if you want to grow your own crops, your food waste has already been taken care of. What about the other things? We can merge them into other artifacts that we can use at home. It's nice that if you go to Michael's office, he has a very wonderful chair, which is made from, I think, cardboard or something very hard systems. Oh, yeah, exactly. That particular chair. It would be nice for us to have homes of people, having these kind of materials over there. Kids can be innovative with this. Let's get exactly. So, I mean, it's nice that even at the home levels, we get people to manage their own things, because the government cannot get waste collection at every point in the whole country. So let's also, educate the local communities, individual homes, to be able to manage their own waste, and then they don't need to have, that kind of collection system. And the ones that cannot be managed at all at that level, they can put it to another level. So for sure, it has an impact, but education needs to come through to help people to sort of move on. And it has to be realistic, because sometimes I think we are becoming too sophisticated with our things. And it's like, yeah, it has to be like this, it has to be like this. But we are part of nature. Nature doesn't waste. So let's go back to our roots and just live a simple life. And that is all that matters, I think so.
May I add something? Thank you, David, for mentioning my chair. I carried it in my head for 2 years before I made it. I had the material, but I don't know how to. Finally, I did it, and it's one of the most favorite chairs in my office. But what I would like to say or add, it was mentioned by Dr. Jain, going back to the roots. It's correct, is the way. Even the small silver bag, it's 400 years old methodology called origami. Just we put it with a new material, which they did not have at the time in Japan. But what we have to add to the education system is not at the moment, if you look at it, we are pushing science to people, but we do not ask the people to give the answer back. We are asking everyone to understand this complicated science. I am steel factory worker. I do not have any academic degree. If you will try to explain something complicated to me, I will probably not understand. But I will tell you, but many people will not. They will just say yes, yes, and they will not understand. But let's change the education system, not only to deliver from the top down, so from the newest to the old ones, but let's ask the old ones. And for this, I think India, even Africa, they are great nations. And because you never lost the connection between the seniors and the juniors. In Europe, in US, it's completely lost. Sorry, it's lost. I am living here and it's lost. But in your countries, you still value the wisdom of the seniors. Let's get them back to the system. They are not social waste. I have 99 years old granddad. He was teaching all his life. And I can tell you, spending 2 hours discussion with him, it's unbelievable volume of information, value, because he see the situation from 100 years. I see it only from 50 years. So it's great to compare, and let's help the people from the, let's call them bottom, or from this, we rate it as a social waste. We don't speak about it, but it is so. Let's bring them back, learn from them, and combine it with the young people. And just before we start this great conversation, I have one very interesting point. Today is the Father's Day, but who is organizing the event? 3 people who do not have children. And who is participating as a guest? 3 people who has children already. So already now, SEMS show us all the power of combining the young and old. I never make any difference when a child speaks to me or a senior, whether a cleaning lady or general manager. On my business card is human. And that's what we have to wake up in everyone, because then We will act as the nature, as David says, and nature does not waste. It's just act, and it acts according to the current situation. More rain, grow faster. Less rain, grow slower. Let's put these to the people. So sorry, I have to add this because I think the level of learning from the bottom is missing on many levels, but we have to wake it up. Thanks a lot. Sorry for disturbing.
Just on a lighter note, I'm with the SEMS team when it comes to having children or not having children for that matter.
Sorry for that, but with such a knowledge, I was thinking, okay,
But
there must be some children on board already.
but being a university professor actually makes you a mother. So I would say that all my students are my children.
My mother was teaching in kindergarten her entire life. My grandfather started to teach in 1946 and he finished in 2006. So I am from a family of teachers. So you are absolutely right. The good teacher is father and mother.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately, there are, at least in my country, many just deliver something which they don't feel really in the heart. And that's not you. And I'm really happy that we met.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everyone. Now, moving forward, I hand it over to you, Lokendra.
So yeah, here we have a fourth question for Michael sir. Sir, is microplast will be the next bug problem in our society? Is it worse than e-waste? Please discuss a solution on these.
You ask whether plastics will be evil or more evil than e-waste?
Yes,
Is
sir.
it right?
Yes, sir.
No. Why? Plastics is just another form of crude oil. For 50 years exists a technology called pyrolysis based on incarnation or heat and pressure and so on, which can get back from plastic the crude oil again. The efficiency is very high, really high. So there are some exceptions and so on, but it is so. The issue is not the material. No matter about which material we will speak, if we start to use any material as a single use, it will become issue. And the single use is not the issue of the material, but of human behavior. So the main topic is to change the human behavior. The material itself, plastic, it's fine. It has many benefits. When it starts to become a problem, when we start to behave to it like it's cheap, we can throw it away. Even if I take, my country is one which adopted the elimination of single-use bags. But in every shop you can take not the big bags, but you take for fruits and vegetables the small bags. Still you pack it. And what I did with the big one, I use it after as a waste storage place, or I reuse it when it was not broken. But the small ones are so small that I can hardly reuse it. So I use it for packing something and I use it, but it's not about the plastics. So this is why I think plastic is not the main issue, but our behavior and the way which was mentioned by several of the speakers. Because if we put a value on it, and it must not be only the financial, let's put the environmental value, because not a single one would like to live on a landfill. I had in the past, I had a great session once in India 2 years ago, and there was one representative of the informal waste pickers in India, a lady. Everything what I said was translated. She saw my presentation, and I asked her after whether it somehow influenced her. And I will never forget what this lady, who spent her entire life on a landfill, her entire family grew on a landfill, 2 of her children die on a landfill, and she said, Mr. Rada, I will do everything what is possible to prevent what has happened for my children not to live on a landfill anymore. So here you see that even people who live from a landfill, I don't speak about the rich ones who just generate the money of it, but every single one is ready to change. So this is why I think it's not the plastic, it's us who have to change.
Thank you, sir, for your knowledgeable response. And here we have a final question for Dr. Meenal ma'am. Ma'am, is there any NGO or government organization with whom we can collaborate to take initiative like groundwater recharge and waste management?
That's a very good question. And In India, definitely we do have a number of organizations who are specifically working in this area of waste management and groundwater recharge. For just to name a few, there is the Center for Science and Environment, who is big time into rainwater harvesting and wastewater treatment. And then there are organizations like Indian Pollution Control Association, who are doing a lot of work in in this area of waste management. I happen to know this fellow who is the director of IPCA, Mr. Ashish Jain, and as a department, like as a college, we have networked with these organizations, and they are doing commendable work in this area of waste management. Then we also have a number of other NGOs, like we have Terry, and Terry, which is the Energy and Resources Institute. I think they have huge campaigns when it comes to waste management. And just to add to what Mr. Rada was showing, that block that you showed us, which is made of recycled mass. So Terry has this huge campaign wherein they are recycling, yeah, something of that sort. So they are recycling the Tetra packs that are generated when we have these juices and all, and they are turning them into school furniture. And they have started this as a project, and they have actually installed a number of furniture pieces in different schools. So there is no dearth of organizations when it comes to waste management. It's just about hitting the nail on time, and I can probably share a more comprehensive list later on. Offhand, I can think of these few organizations.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much, ma'am, for your.
I'll add
Yes,
to
yes,
that.
sure.
Apart from NGOs working on this, there are many startups coming up. Okay, like new techies, new young generation working in this field of waste minimization, waste
Absolutely.
management, and waste utilization. Right, many startups are coming, and they are collaborating with the with the NGOs, or else they are directly associated with the government initiatives for encouraging this startups and creating value or wealth out of the waste. So there are lots of startups working in this direction, particularly in India. I have seen, right? So creating coffee mugs, like coffee mugs from the grain waste, the spent grains, right? So coffee mugs in a franchise called Cafe Coffee Day, right? Cafe Coffee Day. We have a franchise of coffee shop over here. So that they have this edible or portable, coffee mugs which are being created out of the spent grains. So that's an innovation of a startup.
Thank you so much, sir, for your response. Now over to you, Silpa.
Okay, my next question is for Himanshu sir. So, what does it take in terms of training and cost implication to learn how to recycle waste?
Training and cost implication.
Yes.
Okay, to recycle the waste.
Yes, sir.
All right. So I'll continue with the flow that I was answering to the previous question of NGOs and startups. So when it comes to training, of course, the education is one mode, one medium of educating the mass about recycling the waste. I'm sure the colleges, the universities are having this subject of waste. Either it is engineering, or whether it is administrative colleges or the institutes. They definitely have this session, what I have learned on the education side, that waste is a topic given to them, either to on the research, or whether it is onto the selective subjects that they go through their curriculum. So of course education plays a lot of part, and from there, I guess, from there is the seed of the innovation. Okay, there is the seed of and a curiosity to dwell more and more of the subject into a student. Okay, so of course the training need is other part when it comes to the education, but education is there for this. And the question of training as well as capital requirement, you said, right? So capital requirement, I guess it plays the secondary part. Okay, when it comes for the recycling of waste. First of all, the training is there, the education is there, the startups are there, the innovation is there, the seed of the idea is there, and then the capital is infused to make that innovation a reality, right? So that is the context of answering to your question, that of course training is secondary. Like the sessions that we are conducting right now, it's part of the training, it's part of the education, it's part of awareness of the mass, right? What sort of ideas are there, what sort of innovations are there, what the globe is thinking on the waste. So that is one of the form of training, and training particularly for waste recycling, or whether it is recycling, reusing, refusing, reconsidering, right? Mr. Rada said that reconsidering, rebuilding. Okay, so that's the form of that on my
Thank
part.
it was very helpful, like for us youth to start in this, like waste management and all. Thank you so much, sir. And my final question of the day is from David, sir. So what would be the impetus to so that a waste management scheme will be a cost cutting and relevant to various sectors of economy?
That's a very long one. Would you want to repeat it again?
Let me repeat for you. So, what would be the impacts so that the waste management scheme will be a cross-cutting and relevant to various sectors of economy?
I'm trying to gather everything that you said for the last time. I'm sorry. Try to break it down again for me.
Yeah, no issue, sir. Sir, so what would be the impacts so that the
Mhm,
waste management scheme
mhm.
will be a cross-cutting or relevant to various sectors of economy?
All right, so I'll try and get to it how I get it. So as we mentioned earlier, I think in other part of this conversation, we had, oh, okay, perfect. It has been uh, put in the chat. Okay, perfect. All right. So I mentioned earlier that there's definitely waste generated in all the sector in the supply chain of all industries. So of course, if we want to put in effective management throughout the scheme, I think all the conversations that have gone on so far actually attest to this, right from the extraction to the manufacturing and production, and through to transportation, delivery, and then to the consumer level. There has to be a way that we will put in from policy level to innovation to education to actually practical things that we can use our hands to do in order to bring in contribution to the economy. But I think that throughout the conversation, one thing that has been highlighted so far is definitely education, because we all need to be on the same platform to be able to make this thing work. But we have to have the idea that waste management, as Michael mentioned at the early stage, is not going to be the way to go throughout. Because if you look at the intention of waste management, it's not there to sort of help us to make the waste go away. Because if people do not have waste, the waste management industry is not going to be available, right? So waste prevention is the way to go. That is what is going to invest into our economy effectively. It's not about, getting the waste to that cross. Because if you look at the definition, as Michael said, if the thing gets to become waste, then it means that we have to find a way to either recycle it, which is not the most effective way then, because the waste is already mixed with other things, food waste and all that. It looks dirty. We need another technology to invest in to wash it, disinfect it, and then get it back into it. And then now listen, people have the mindset that waste, right? It's something that is dirty. So there was a story that was shared recently that I've forgotten exactly where I heard it from, but someone knew a very important product that was just using and just saw on the label that it's made from waste. and that just closed the person's mind. Just all of a sudden, the production, the purchasing of that product just reduced because people had a mindset of it coming from waste. My PhD research is on a product, a new technology that is trying to involve in desalination of seawater. But the problem that we are facing in scaling up this product is because the whole process is driven by treatment of wastewater. So if people have the mindset that we are desalinating water, seawater from wastewater, people will have hesitate to drink it because it's from wastewater. Because the idea is waste, right? So we have to have the idea that the thing getting to waste is a problem, and people have certain social feelings about it being waste. So the thing is, let's prevent the waste from coming. So within your supply chain, you just make sure that things are being just revolved back in the system. So we don't call it waste. In our own system, we are just reusing all the materials that we use. So it's a resource, and not just to wait until it becomes waste totally. And I think that is what can contribute, and it's very applicable in all sort of industries to help boost, of course, the economy, which we are very unfortunately passionate about.
I will add one more information, which I don't know whether David already saw, but last week announced the government of California that they will process the waste fecal water. So really the water with connected to human waste, they will process it into drinking water, because the scarcity of water, drinking water in California is so high that for many years, generally, they don't have anything to drink. And the people really considered that that this step is needed. And this time, for the first time in history, in a globe generally, in a space, they do it. They drink their own water, we can say. But on the earth, we did not do that. And California is the first one. Before we end, may I share one slide, please, which show up the difference between waste management and recycling and the waste prevention. Is just one slide. We introduce it on Friday, but somebody has to give me the right to share, please. Because it's being right now translated in various languages, and it may help you. Thank you. It may help you to really share the information with your people. So this is the difference. Let me make it bigger. This is the difference between waste recycling and waste prevention. There is waste, there is no waste. So simple it is. And people may understand after seeing this that the waste prevention is the right solution. The waste recycling is just a tool, but not the solution. So that's all. I will stop sharing. Sorry for disturbing. But this is what we introduced on Friday. David knows it, and we are right now translating in different languages.
Regards to both of you for your insights, reply. And now moving forward to our ending. Lokendra, now I hand it over to you.
Yeah, we are done with our questions parts, and I would like to thank you all for your time and for answering our questions. Before we proceed, I would like to ask our guest if they would like to say a few words about the day's topic, wastage management, and the feedback about the session.
This time I would like to ask somebody of you to start, and let me finish it.
All right. So, Mr. Michael, I shall start it. So, first of all, a big thank you to digisaksham and CEMS India for creating this platform of collaboration, of sharing, of creating awareness, of bringing new voices, bringing different perspectives. Of course, sharing is the major part of this. So thank you for this wonderful session conducted by CEMS India and digisaksham. There were quite lots of insights from this session. We definitely got to know Mr. Michael Rada, Mr. David, Dr.Meenal Jain, their views, their area of interest, their perspectives, their work, the area in which they are working right now. It's tremendous, and it's very knowledgeable to for everyone watching this on YouTube as well. So some words of appreciation, some words of gratitude to three of my co-speakers of today's session. Yeah, thank you from my side, David or Dr. Meenal.
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank the organizing committee, SEMS Foundation, and our lovely students for organizing such a wonderful series of webinars and then culminating it into a live talk show. So kudos to that. And I would say that I don't know how much I could add to it, but I definitely had a lot to learn. So thank you so much to all my fellow speakers, and I wish to connect with you in the future too. So let's get in touch, and all the best. Thank you so much. Yeah, one key takeaway that I would like to share is going back to our roots. I think that is the most important thing when it comes to waste management. Thank you.
Okay, so since Michael has decided to go last, it's my turn now. Yeah, so I want to say thank you to the organizers. This has been very fascinating. I think it's very interesting how you are dedicated to your work, and it's exciting how you put all these things together. And I would like to say thank you to our wonderful host, who have been very patient with us throughout this conversation, bringing out all the questions. I think, yeah, really thank you for your professionalism and everything that you try. I mean, you keep getting to us trying to, I mean, a lot of things have gone on in the background that maybe our listeners might not know. And thank you so much for your dedication and everything. This platform is really, really important. And there's one thing that I would like to say that maybe in the future, we should also consider trying to get feedback from the people. Let's also have a panel where not experts, but then just the everyday people are here to share their thoughts on what they, to reflect on what they did. How far has it gone? Have they been able to implement some of the things that they learned from this discussion? And let's also get feedback. I know you have forums where you get feedback from the people. It would be nice to also follow up on it, that someone mentioned something significant. I want to start something. So let's get back at that. Let's make sure that it's not a talk show. It's something that came to educate people. And also thank you so much to Michael and Dr. Jain and Himanshu. I'm sorry if I mentioned your name wrongly, but really I've learned a lot of things from you, and I'm really, really definitely hoping that we can connect again and interact each other's work and also try to make more impact. And thank you to everyone who came to listen. Your interest is very good for us to also keep going, and it's very important that we are all interested in it. So yeah, I think a lot have been shared, and I'll just leave it at here. Thank you, everybody, for making this possible. Michael?
Thanks a lot. Having the first and the last word, it's all the time a pleasure for me. But I would like, before I do, I would like, if you agree, to stop with to do what I do every time with people which really we speak the same language and which we build the wasteless world together. I will make a screenshot, and we made it with this sign. This sign does not represent Michael Rada as number one, not at all. This sign represents very different thing. We follow one aim, and this is to build wasteless world. So if you agree and you make the same sign, I will make the screenshot and share the conversation. Smile, please. Let me check, because the time is not safe. So I will share it with all of you. Okay, it is shared. And why I would like to be the final one, because I would like to wish all of you, firstly, thanks for the great event, but I don't expect anything else after so many events already with you, and it's really great. But what I would like to say, please, let your days be free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe and free, because all of them make your life meaningful. So thanks a lot. It was really great session, and you have been great hosts, and we have been, I think, quite a good guests as well. At least I hope. So thanks a lot. Thanks.
I would second that.
And just wondering that the time is going so fast, so I can speak under few hours. It's 12 or it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so I have a lot of time here. No, it was really great. So thanks to everyone. And just to inform you, there will be much more from this cooperation. I would like to invite you all to Industry 5.0. We already connected on LinkedIn, and we will connect with LinkedIn. There will be much more connected to Industry 5.0, and I see all of you on board and on the construction side of wasteless world, because wasteless world is the image which we should leave behind, not a global landfill. And if we can teach others to join us, they will. Thanks a lot.
Yes, definitely.
I hope you have allayed our fears about wastage management. Thank you so much for making this live chat such a success. Your presence and wise words aided in amplifying our causes in the best possible ways. To be a part of the webinar today makes me a very happy as well. I would like to Silpa over from here.
Great is the art of beginning, but greater is the art of ending. All wonderful things comes to an end eventually. I consider everyone to be fortunate to have been a part of this live talk show, which was packed with information and made it difficult to say goodbye. Also, don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel. You can also tag us on Instagram using hashtag digisaksham or hashtag SEMS group, along with the screenshot in your story. A good event never ends. They only takes a pause and keeps us waiting for the next. On this note, I, Shilpa Sharma and Lokendra Singh, your hosts for the day, signing off on a cheerful note. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Happy
You
Sunday,
too.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Happy Father's Day to all the fathers.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to all the fathers. Thank you so much.